Hey guys, so we're going to be learning about absolute value equations and how to solve those today. Make sure you're listening closely as I go through the notes because some problems I will have you pause and solve on your own. Some we are going to save for later, so just make sure you're paying close attention to which ones you should be doing. We're going to start off by just talking about the definition of absolute value. So the absolute value is the distance a number is from 0, and it is written like this. So the absolute value of -4 is equal to 4. It is 4 spaces from 0. Okay? So now on your right side of your paper, you should have a little bit of room. I'm going to have you write down 3 questions you want to ask yourself as you approach an absolute value problem. Number 1 is it by itself? Is something being added or subtracted to that absolute value? If so, we need to do that before getting into our 2 different cases. So, for example, this one here has +2 added to it. We need to subtract 2 from both sides before we can solve. Okay? Number 2 question that we want to ask ourselves. Is it equal to a negative? Is it equal to a negative? So when we look at that problem, if we have the absolute value of x plus 2 is equal to -6. It's equal to a negative, so we can automatically say no solution because you cannot be a negative distance from 0. So that's your answer for right here. Why is there sometimes no solution? When there's a negative, you can't be negative distance from 0. So no solution. And then number 3 question we want to ask ourselves. If we've answered question 1 and 2 and we still have a problem to solve there, we can break into 2 cases and solve. So we want to break it into that, whatever is on that right side, into that negative number and that positive number, and we can solve. So we're going to go ahead and do some examples. If you guys come across any questions, make sure you ask. You can pause your video or continue on. It may be answered later in the video. All right, number 1. The absolute value of 3. So the distance 3 is from 0 is 3. The absolute value of -53 is 53. It's 53, the distance is 53 from 0. The absolute value of x is equal to 4. That one, our answer is 4, or it could be -4, because if we had x equal to -4 equals 4, because we are still, our distance from 0 is still 4, even though it's negative spaces. For number 1, so we want to set this up. We do not have anything added to the absolute value, so we can go ahead and set up our 2 cases. So is a minus 4 is equal to +3, and then a minus 4 is equal to -3. We can solve by adding 4 to both sides for both of them. This first case, 3 plus 4 is equal to 7. Second case here, a is equal to -3 plus 4 is 1. So those are our 2 possible solutions, and we can write those as 7 and all right. Scroll down a little. Okay. We can write those as 7. Why does it do this all the time? is 7 and 1. Not the negative, we don't want that. I was trying to erase it, but it was malfunctioning. Okay, number 2. We do not have anything connected to that absolute value, so we can go ahead and set up our 2 cases. b plus 6 is equal to 5. b plus 6 is equal to negative 5. Subtract 6. b is equal to negative 1. That's our one possible solution. Subtract 6. b is equal to negative 11. Second possible solution. So we can rewrite that also. Negative 11, negative 1. Go ahead and do that. All right, for number 3, I would like you guys to try and solve that one on your own real quick. Okay, if you guys are back now, you should have solved number 3. We have nothing attached to that absolute value. So we can go ahead and set up our 2 cases. Negative 20. You want to add 7 to both sides. X is equal to 27. It's our one possible solution. Plus 7 plus 7. X is equal to negative 13. That is our second possible solution. So those, you need both of those to have your answer correct, okay? Our next one, number 4. Go ahead and pause your video and try that one on your own as well. All right, if you're back, you should have solved number 4. We want to set it up. We have nothing attached to our absolute value, so we can just start solving. Subtract 8, subtract 8. Y is equal to 7. Subtract 8, subtract 8. Y is equal to negative 15 minus 8 is negative 23. Negative 23 and positive 7 are our possible solutions for that distance from 0. Guys, remember that's what our absolute value is. The distance a number is from 0. All right, I'm going to go ahead and scroll down to number 5. Okay, number 5, nothing's attached to our absolute value, so we can go ahead and set up our 2 cases. 3x, oh, I'm sorry. Go back, ignore that. Remember our question from earlier? It was our second question. Is it equal to a negative? Yes, we have a negative on the other side of the equal sign. So we already know our answer is no solution, because we cannot be negative distance from 0. Okay? Number 6. We have a 4 outside of the parentheses. What do you guys think that means? Just like when you're solving an equation, we are dividing by 4. Divide by 4. So now we have the absolute value of 2x minus 3 is equal to 11 over 4. Our absolute value is now on its own. There's nothing being added, subtracted, multiplied. So we can set up our 2 cases. We have 2x minus 3 is equal to 11 over 4. And we have 2x minus 3 is equal to negative 11 over 4. We can add 3 to both sides. And then once we add 3 to both sides, we also want to divide by 2. And you're left with that first one. We should end up with x is equal to 2 7/8. And when we add 3 here and add 3 and then divide by 2, we are left with x is equal to 1/8. So those are our 2 possible solutions there for number 6. Number 7 and 8 we are going to save for later. So you can go ahead and turn your paper over now. For number 9, let me scroll down here. All right, number 9, we can go ahead and set up our we need to get rid of that 4 on the bottom. That 4 is not part of the absolute value. You see that the absolute value is only on the top here. So we want to multiply both sides by 4. Those 4's cancel. Multiply this side by 4. We can set up our 2 cases. When we multiply 2 times 4, we have 8. So then on our other case, we have -8. Can add 2 to both sides. 5x equals 10. Divide by 5. Divide by 5. X is equal to 2. That's one of our possible solutions. Other side here, add 2, add 2. 5x is equal to -6. Divide by 5. Divide by 5. X is equal to -6/5. Okay? Those are our 2 possible solutions for number 9. Number 10. So we have 2 different things we need to do for this one. First, I'm going to work furthest away from our absolute value. So I'm going to get rid of that 12. I'm going to subtract 12. When I do that, I'm left with 4. Absolute value of 2x minus 3 is equal to 11 minus 12. It's -1. Now we see that it's equal to a negative. Do you guys remember what that means? No solution. If my answer is equal to a negative before I start solving, I have no solution. Okay, so let me see. We're gonna move down to the bottom and do that word problem with the graph. So let me, okay. The temperature of an enclosure for a pet snake should be about 80 degrees, give or take 5 degrees. Find the maximum and the minimum temperatures. So we want to set this up. X minus 80 is equal to 5. Okay, so from there, we can say x minus 80 is equal to 5, x minus 80 is equal to -5, add 80, add 80, x is equal to 85, add 80, add 80, x is equal to 75. So our minimum temperature is 75 and our max is 80. We know that because 75 is the lower number, 85 is the higher number. So that's the distance from our middle. Normally, this is a word problem, so our middle here is 80. Normally when we're doing absolute value, like the equations before, our middle is 0 that we're working from. Okay? So in this next case here, our middle, we're writing an equation for the absolute value of this graph, and we're going to have a different middle. So we look here, and we see that our middle is here, this 15. So our equation should be set up as x minus 15 is equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, because it's the distance from that middle is 4. And then you would solve, and once you set up your 2 cases, you have x equals 19 and x equals 11, like we see here.